Childhood nostalgia can be a real big pain in my backside. Has my brain ever stopped to consider that maybe viewing experiences from the lens of a child who ate gum from under the lunchroom tables may not be the best idea? Why did I write that? I didn't do that. Video games are especially tough situations, whole adventures that are absolutely caked in the rose-colored tint of remembrance. That's the thing though. Pac-Man World. Pac-Man World 2. Pac-Man World 3. Smash Bros. Brawl. Tactics Advance, Grandia. These are games I remember thoroughly enjoying, but if a gun was placed to the back of my head, just pull the trigger, whatever they want, I'm not gonna do it. Too much of a persnickety little fella. I have quite a few memories from my early childhood, specific days where the weather or warm evening light had a profound impact on my imagination. Those images forever engraved into my head, that overwhelming feeling of youthful serenity. I also remember falling off a dock. Sitting alongside all those really cool memories rests Mario and Luigi, dicking around a sewer, and there I was unaware of how to play the game. But gosh dang, that doesn't mean I didn't try. With all the talk of a Mario movie having apparently released, I don't really know, I haven't heard much about it, it got me thinking, what's my favorite Mario game? So here we are. It's interesting to think about how you can remember virtually nothing about an experience, none of the details, none of the words spoken, but still remember the exact emotions that it created within you. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is absolutely one of those games for me. This game came out 20 years ago! I've played through the beginning of this game so many times that it's practically cattle prodded onto the smoothest, least wrinkled part of my brain. Yet, I don't remember much of anything past the second hour. What I do remember, though, is that it is absolutely one of the most charming, fun games that I have ever played. Well, you know, that poppycock works, yeah? I feel like there's a Mario game for every kind of person. And the Mario and Luigi sub-series are for the goofy and the wacky, those bubbling with the youthful fervor and comical wackiness. Superstar Saga is responsible for a lot of things. It gave rise to one of the most successful and memorable side series that Mario has ever birthed out, bad wording. It gave us the world-renowned Mario Bros. Gibberish, and alongside Luigi's Mansion established Green Mario's scaredy cat persona. But as a standalone game and what was probably seen as a pseudo-successor to Legend of the Seven Stars, this game blows its predecessor out of the water in regards to the overall entertainment factor. This is one of those experiences that takes any possible chance it gets to charm you, packing tiny little details and funny gags and nods into every corner of the concise yet perfectly balanced campaign. I derive so much joy just from looking at this little bugger. He's insane! Unequivocally preposterous! Superstar Saga is the perfect example on how to make an incredibly charming and consistently engaging experience out of what would otherwise be a rudimentary RPG. Because nothing here is particularly complex, or groundbreaking, or astounding in any particular manner, but when there's a smile plastered across your face for the entire experience, how do you not walk away happy? This is the kind of RPG an RPG hater would adore. So, with the threat of anybody disagreeing with me now completely removed from my mind, let's moonwalk back a bit and start at the beginning. Our story begins with an ambassador of the Bean Kingdom stealing Princess Peach's voice and replacing it with explosives. Yeah, this is the kind of experience we're in for. There's a Mario Toad sex scene, you fight Bowser, and then you head off to get Princess Peach's voice back. In your attempts to chase Cacletta, the evil DMV worker who had dressed up as a Bean ambassador to steal Peach's voice in the first place, you're thwarted by Fawful, the greatest underling from anything ever. Fawful has some of the best one-liners I've ever heard, constantly using weird metaphors and calling the bros Fink Rats. Now, apparently that's supposed to mean a persistent and annoying person, but when I looked up Fink Rat, this is the only thing I found, so I'm just going to assume that somebody has modded this into the game, and if not, make it happen! That's an order. Just from this opening 20 minutes, so much stands out. The dialogue is charming and dumb, but it doesn't manage to overstay its welcome, cutting to the point while also keeping the exposition entertaining. You get tossed immediately into a tutorial fight, and a couple more will play out during the opening act, but the best part is that they're all contextualized. You're taught to jump and interact with the world through toads giving you tasks. Your profile images are passport photos. You learn how to start fights with an advantage by trapping stowaway Goombas in crates. This is all really simple information, yet never once does it not go above and beyond to also be entertaining while relaying it to you. So Mario and Luigi get shot off into the Badlands of the Bean Kingdom and have to make their way through border patrol by... Wow, this joke sucks! Gather 100 coins so this bozo will let you through. He doesn't. Fight ensues. Bowser gets shot from a cannon and never appears
again.
From here, you explore the Bean Bean Kingdom, hopping from area to area, chasing Calculetta and trying to stop her from doing the big old bad. I'm not going to go into detail with the plot, because if I stood here and dissected the story beats, you would get absolutely nothing out of it. The substance lies in the charming presentation and less in the complexity. Traveling the map to find neon fruit is not by itself an interesting task, but when the mode of doing so is slamming Luigi into the ground with a hammer, then yeah, I gotta say I'm entertained. I'm a simple man. I see abuse, I laugh. One of the early dungeons has water-based puzzles, which by themselves aren't really much. But in order to move the water from place to place, Mario swallows it all and puffs up like a big old balloon. Luigi can then jump on his head to shoot it out, and gosh dang, this is just the greatest experience one can have in regards to Mario inflation. Why do I write these things? Most RPGs have a royal family, it seems, and in this case, you got Prince Bean, who shows up, tosses his hair back, and flashbangs the screen about every hour. I think you're starting to see the point I'm trying to make here. Simple ideas, top-tier execution. Man, I never knew Undertale was so old! This design philosophy bleeds over into the gameplay as well. You got Mario, you got Luigi. Mario controls with A, and Luigi controls with B. A very simple setup to grasp. You got 3 different attack commands that you unlock throughout the game. You start with a jump, where timing your button presses to when you make contact with the enemy deals more damage. You get a hammer about an hour later, where you gotta hit the button before the end falls off. This is great. I love this game. Every time you get another type of attack, a whole range of world actions are then made available to you. And check that out, top tier segue! Another godly example of charmifying tutorials are the red and green colored brothers you meet that teach you new moves throughout the story. They'll teach you how to twist and turn, domestic violence, Sonic Advance! I like the idea of brothers in the Mario universe all knowing and most likely copying the Mario Bros trademark colors, even though nobody in this game actually respects Luigi. I'm doing my boy dirty. Anyway, segue over. Sit down, peanut gallery. It's time for chemistry class. The strangest of the 3 attacks you get are the elemental powers you gain by visiting a remote island full of natives that can barely speak English. This comes so out of left field, but Mario wielding fireballs? That makes sense. Luigi gains the unrivaled power of the electric chair. And here's where I unavoidably have to play a little bit of devil's advocate. If there's any place where this game feels like the creativity-flavored mayonnaise is spread a little bit too thin, it's with these specific power-ups. Because when compared to your jump and hammer maneuvers, they are far less unique and inconsistently used. Mario can flame Luigi's ass for a sprint, which is fine. It's barely used, but it makes sense. Most games with puzzles have something like this, right? Luigi can electrocute Mario, which gives you the ability to strafe, so you can hip bump boo statues. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So not every single thing in this game is infused with an infallible charm. If I had to give one fairly frustrating complaint, it would be towards the way the game handles enemy variety. Most locations only have maybe 4 or 5 enemies to fight, which is both a blessing and a curse. You only have to keep track of a handful of attack patterns, but they aren't going to get harder or more interesting the 500th time you jump over them. See, like I mentioned before, Mario controls with A, and Luigi controls with B. And this is also the simple setup the game uses in regards to the enemy attack phase. You can dodge or counter every attack that is thrown at you in this game, making a no damage run something that is actually quite tangible, albeit obviously difficult. This does end up supplying the game with 2 super powerful Giga Chad type strengths though. First off, you can't zone out while playing this game. Every battle is entirely interactive from start to finish. This is the primary reason as to why I think this game thrives off of its short length. If a 60 to 70 hour RPG used this sort of consistent engagement, I wouldn't look like this. No sir, I'd look like this. But a tight 15-hour runtime with consistent engagement, each fight being an active test of skill, is pretty cool. Second, this heavily rewards players who are patient enough to learn attack patterns and adjust. This is one of those rare turn-based RPGs where level isn't really all that important provided you know how to counteract the enemies you're up against. Having higher attack and critical hit rates, a stat that is most eloquently dubbed stash, is obviously helpful, but like, just dodge? Get good, maybe? The amount of interactivity in between the bros and the baddies is really entertaining as well. The attacks they pull off can be really cute and creative. You're also incentivized to pay attention to what you're fighting and which attacks will do best. You can't jump on spikes, and you can't skull fracture a hard shell. The fire and lightning skills are the easiest to flub up, but will do boosted damage to certain enemies, which can really come in handy in the 4 occasions they remembered to implement said mechanic. But a game all about brotherly love and perseverance wouldn't be complete without some team attacks. Enter the Bros moves. Skills unique to Mario or Luigi that require very time-sensitive inputs but deal huge damage. Couldn't pull these off as a kid. Each skill has 3 levels which can make the maneuver easier for a higher BP cost, but even then,
I didn't know what this was trying to tell me. Still though, for a non-stupid, this system adds a slight level of risk and reward, even more so when you unlock the higher level, more complicated bros moves. I'll reiterate, I see abuse, yippee, happy camper. Gold star and a band-aid. Now, if another inconveniently placed gun was poking at my noggin asking me to sum it all up in a single sentence, I would say this. The gameplay of Superstar Saga thrives off of the charm because every rudimentary subsystem is heightened through the contextualization and interactivity. There's never a dull moment, there's rarely a wasted chance. The last ability you get is riding Luigi as a surfboard. 2 band-aids. Anywho, Wiggles, let's crash back into the story here real quick. Go on some fetch quests, slapstick comedy ensues until Luigi cross-dresses and it's time to take down the big bad bitch herself. There are no character arcs, there are no tangible twists. And what is that I hear? The lack of complaining from the internet elitists? How could this be? Impressively, the super charming vibe that the introduction supplies isn't just present in the combat, but stays a constant throughout the entire story. If I had to highlight a certain aspect of the story as my favorite, it would probably be your occasional run-ins with Popple, this short-stack burglar and his sidekick who they just call Rookie. Both completely original characters to the ever-growing Mario lore. They occasionally show up and act as super brief roadblocks, but Popple has a whole boss theme dedicated to him, and this is really funny because at no point is he even remotely a threat to you. He does like no damage, has piss poor HP, and's got that prison aesthetic all wrong. He's a bean! Wear some plaid for heaven's sakes. For a game as simple and straightforward as Superstar Saga realistically is, there was no need for a secondary antagonist. But Popple has so much more character than Cackletta ever will, so running into him was always bound to be a certified banger. Unfortunately, Rookie here is a sorely underutilized character. He's easily the cooler of the two, but disappears from the plot halfway through. Pretty lame considering he's got one of the more creative designs of the new characters.
Oh, hell no, man.
Hello, Mario. The best dungeon in the game comes at the halfway point when you travel to Woohoo University in order to recapture the one and only Bean Star. Hell yeah, baby, the Bean Star! I used to be sad. I used to be lost. I was losing weight. I was shut in my house and crying my bowls of cereal full each morning. Guess what I was missing? Quite a bit of the campaign centers around the Bean Kingdom's attempts to protect and retrieve the Bean Star, the Bean equivalent of the classic Mario Power Star. Except this one gets annoyed when people sing bad. That's your whole task when progressing through the University, and this is where the puzzle solving and combat really hit a peak in my eyes. The enemies were decently varied, the standout being the Dr. Mario viruses who you can match in color to kill instantly, easily the best example of unique combat interactivity. And the puzzles, while far from complex, because keep in mind, 4-year-old, are pretty neat in the way that they connect different chunks of the dungeon together. I had a lot of fun with this one. And while the other dungeons don't quite live up to the same pedigree, they're all solid in their own way. Strangely enough though, the desert section of the game doesn't have a proper dungeon, instead substituting a Luigi-only segment, which sucks no matter where they tried to implement it, and just about the worst escort mission in any game I have ever played. Is it fun? Nah. Is it hard? Barely. Does it work? Am I over 6 feet? If you're lying to yourself, maybe.
I will say that I think this game does a great job in creatively and capably implementing minigames into its core structure. And I hate everything.
In most games, I dislike when the flow gets interrupted just to spice up the gameplay for a few minutes. Most of the time with a bare-bones minigame that I'll never want to go back to. But in Mario and Luigi's case, random attractions with funky little gameplay segments are common and consistent enough that instead of being an annoyance, occasionally having to play a charming little minigame simply becomes part of the core gameplay loop.
Superstar Saga successfully turns one of my least favorite aspects of any RPG into an undeniable strength.
But in regards to this ungodly little desert, that desire to spice up what would have otherwise been a rudimentary chunk of overworld exploration now lives in infamy among fans as one of, if not the only big blemish on this adventure. You gotta protect Peach from being kidnapped by Goombas while you're crossing the desert, and you gotta create paths for her to proceed. If she leaves your view for more than a few seconds, bam! Captured. If she hits an obstacle, she turns around. Can't open up a path on the first try? Well, jump down that pipe, go get her. Fail the second time? Boom. Goomba ethnic cleansing. Third time's not the charm? What a bitch! But look at the cute little interaction you get when they do save her. It's so charming and cuddly and...
I can't get angry anymore. I just can't. I don't have it in me. Is it because I enjoyed this game thoroughly, even through its occasional stumbles, because of its earnest nature and top-notch presentation? I guess graphics do kind of matter.
Superstar Saga, the Chad of Game Boy RPGs. Not the best, but best at what it does. Golden Sun will forever remain an untouched icon. Isaac, my beloved. You nasty little bastard, you ostentatious little think rat. It's rare you return to a beloved game from your childhood and end up enjoying it more than you used to. But the more I come to understand about art and the profit line horizons of the gaming industry, the more I've learned to appreciate the creative integrity of a product shining through. And when that creative drive feels so properly realized and refined to a T, it becomes one of those games that I can recommend to nearly anyone. There's a reason so many indie games make the concerted effort to charm the player first and foremost. The fun factor and entertainment value it can bring to an otherwise simple experience, it's kind of like a PS1 cheat code. Lightning rarely strikes the same place twice, though.
How you doing, buddy? Listen, bud, I know how it feels. You feel ignored, and I get that. I was a middle child in a past life. And I know they pick on you, and it sucks, but all I'm saying is that waterboarding... I don't know. Listen, buddy, pal, buddy, you gotta learn to live for yourself, and so what if you're not as popular? You have a ton of fans. So many people have played you. You don't have to compare yourself in regards to quality, alright? You're just as good as Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story. No. Don't give me that look. Okay, fine. You're not as good as Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story, but you can't help that. That's not your place. You're still so fun. I mean, look at your younger brothers. They suck and are ugly. That's disgusting. Okay, but you were released in 2005. There are fundamental differences in between the Nuremberg trials and what you were sent to court for. Oh, sure, right. And the Queen was supposed to do something different. What is in this shit?